Well, you could be forgiven for thinking that the most popular words in the English language right now are misinformation and disinformation. I mean, I hear them every single day, and I bet you do as well. They litter the media landscape, and politicians seem enamored with them as well. It doesn't matter where I'm watching in the world, there's always a politician talking about that naughty misinformation and disinformation. And maybe you've been wondering what all this fuss is all about and why these two words seem to cover every single story from every single angle, why they seemed linked when are they possibly the same, and why are they used in tandem and to seemingly, I think sometimes used to stress the point when someone's trying to get their point across that someone else is wrong. They just say misinformation, disinformation. It's the married couple of retort. So you might be wondering what they mean. So I thought let's just help us out a little bit here. So here's the definition of misinformation from dictionary.com. I don't want to say that I came up with this, but that says it's a noun. You can find out how to say it properly with the fun little thing on the screen. But it simply means false information that is spread regardless of whether there is intent to mislead. I thought that was a good definition. And here's disinformation. False information as about a country's military strength or plans disseminated by a government or intelligence agency in a hostile act of tactical political subversion. So it sounds a bit more of a ramp up, doesn't it, from misinformation. Second definition, deliberately misleading or biased information, manipulated narrative or facts, propaganda. So there you go. There's some definitions of those two words. And I think it's interesting to look at it because people throw them out there in the sphere so much. In fact, dictionary.com goes on to explain that disinformation refers to false information that's spread with a specific intent of misleading or deceiving people. And misinformation more generally refers to false information, whether or not it's intended to mislead or deceive people. Now, I love those explanations. And one way that they explain on dictionary.com, which really helped me to understand this, I think, is the difference between them is disinformation is not just false, but dishonest, while misinformation can be a mistake. Maybe that's a way to look at it. The interesting thing with the meaning of words, and I love talking about the meaning of words, is because in our culture right now, we just throw words. In fact, one of my favorite sayings that makes my wife laugh, and I keep using it because if I can make my wife laugh with me instead of at me, I'm all for it. But the word salad that goes on with politicians and different people in the public sphere at the moment, it's just crazy. And so I think it's important that us as the public, average Joe out there who actually has a say in our world as well, we understand why those words are getting thrown around. You might have actually seen in America right now, there's a new initiative that the Biden administration has come up with. Actually, it's part of the Homeland Security Department. The boss of that is the guy you can see in the right-hand side bottom corner of your screen. And they've created this thing called the Disinformation Governance Board. It's causing quite a stir, and you might be thinking, whoa, what does that mean? Are they going to create disinformation? Obviously, what they're talking about is stopping disinformation. I think I've got a bit of a... You can check this out. Here's their website. Well, the website at dhs.gov talks a little bit of a fact sheet about that. You can find out a little bit more about what's going on there as well. But the thing that I'm reading about and seeing commentary on from both sides of the aisle is that there are people wanting to combat this thing called misinformation and disinformation. And these guys, DHS, are framing it around they're going to stop disinformation in regards to foreign entities, when the reality we all know is that when someone disagrees with you at the moment, they throw this phrase at you. It's just misinformation. It's just disinformation. And the concern is that many are equating that this organisation could be something akin to George Orwell's Ministry of Truth from his book 1984. Look, time will tell, I don't know, but I personally have some concerns, especially when you look at the published bias of those involved. I'll just check their little pickup on the screen again. They're not exactly people who have centrist positions on anything political. They're very strong, anti the Republicans in America. I'm not sure if this board is really the right move, but that's the choice they made. And something else just to get you thinking about this whole disinformation, misinformation, I'll grab this short clip from my mate Bob and let him explain it a little bit better than I am right now.
I mean, that's the question, isn't it? Who gets to determine what is misinformation? Because the media use it, but it seems to be just a term for a viewpoint that they don't like. And it came up with the Joe Rogan issue. You may have heard of Joe Rogan, a very popular broadcaster in the United States. He's on Spotify, a big contract, massive listening audience, and the left are trying to cancel him because they think he promotes misinformation, especially around the COVID issue. And his response was this. He says, the problem I have with the term misinformation, especially today, is that many of the things that we thought of as misinformation just a short while ago are now accepted as fact. He said 8 months ago, if you said if you get vaccinated, you can still catch COVID and you can still spread COVID, you will be removed from social media. Now that's accepted as fact. If you said, I don't think cloth masks work, you would be banned from social media. Now that's openly and repeatedly stated on CNN. If you said, I think it's possible that COVID-19 came from a lab, you would have been banned from many social media platforms. Now that's on the cover of Newsweek. The science does change. Our understanding of science can change. And so debates need to happen, and we need to have these robust debates.
I love what he actually says there about having robust debate. It's something I shared the other week about truth. Truth is never scared. And it seems to me there's indeed, there is this battle for truth at the moment. Everyone thinks they've got a corner of it or ownership of it or a handle of it better than everybody else. And the battle seems to really be heating up. Can I encourage you to be a little bit curious and not just cynical? And the reason why I say that is because I would encourage you to engage in the debate. And I'm not meaning on the front foot necessarily getting online and screaming and yelling at everybody. I'm not talking about that debate. But look at what's going on. Do some research, do some study, run it past somebody else, what you're learning that even might argue with you, to challenge you, because that's actually part of how we grow up, have the debate. Look, there's fake news all over the place, and it can come from any source. From anywhere, from the most powerful person in the world through to your next door neighbor who's got the wrong end of the stick. Now, just because someone says something is misinformation or disinformation doesn't mean that it is. As Bob said, it's this phrase that gets thrown around when you don't agree with someone. Sometimes it's the coward's way of not having to answer to a legitimate question or concern. You might think I'm being a little bit strong, but I think the meaning of words are important. And so if someone is arguing with you and all they do is just yell back at you, misinformation, disinformation without an argument, just know in your own heart, they don't actually have an answer. And I think it's always okay to ask questions because the truth is never afraid of them.